Yeah, it goes everybody, because today we'll continue to play around the mulberry bush. Where were we? Here we are. On the fourth summer, Mary had a crisis. Okay. I found her high coughing, hiccup and coughing, whatever. Her eyes brimming with salty tears. Some of them dripped down her cheeks, flesh soaping. They masked her freckles. Where's the fucking... There you go. A space works, but the other button doesn't? What the fuck? Why would you even limit the buttons in a way that you can only press the fucking space bar? That's so dumb. Where was I? That was a pity. I liked her freckles. They made her look cute. A series of imperfections stippled, or is it slipped? Stippled across her otherwise flawless skin. They made her feel more like a real human being and less like the austere, untouchable girl in the portrait in the drawing room. An equal, not Lady Matilda Addison, but Mary. My Mary. For a few glorious moments in that blisteringly hot summer, she really was mine. She stood there before me, her hands hanging limply at her sides, two appendages with no immediately obvious use, alright. Though she was sniffling, shoulders shaking, unable to bite back the soft, girlish sobs that racked her body. She didn't use her hands to brush the tears away. Maybe her thoughts were so jumbled she just didn't think, or maybe she didn't have the energy. It wouldn't be polite to ask. I had never seen Mary look so distraught before, not once. During the 4 years I had known her, 4 long lazy summers, time taken away beneath the boughs of the mulberry tree. When the tears began their slow, steady procession down Mary's cheeks, it pulled hard. She was crying, but with a certain grace and dignity, despite the flushed cheeks, the soft sniffles, the snotty nose. She didn't howl, she didn't bawl. Instead, she tried to keep her misery bottled deep down inside, but her eyes sparkled all the same. There was something brave about it, noble, but I didn't like it. Was that just how fair ladies sobbed? Was that something her tutor's taught her, slotted in between sessions of sewing comforters, or playing the piano, or locating Sweden on the old globe? She should have been crying harder. She was crying, but with a certain grace and dignity, despite the flushed cheeks. How many fucking times are you gonna repeat certain grace and dignity, despite her flushed cheeks? God, this visual novel likes to repeat the same fucking words we've seen a lot, huh? The soft sniffles, the snotty nose. She didn't howl, she didn't bawl. Instead, she tried to keep her misery bottled deep down. Again? But her sparkled eye, I could hardly stand it. You repeated the same fucking dumb shit we've already read previously again? A girl like Mary who threw caution to the wind and was content to gamble about in the gardens like a baby goat, should not have been minding her manners quite so carefully, staring at the ground almost shyly. Mary should not have been shy around me. There was no need. I would have loved her, accepted her no matter what state she was in, no matter how sodden with tears. Each and every tear that clung to her long, pale eyelashes was just one more thing to cherish. Mary, I said, and my voice faltered and I did not know what to say. Pitted against her tears, pure spring water, words were rendered meaningless. But I still tried to persevere. I would have never forgiven myself if I had left her all alone to try and sniffle down her sobs. Sniffle this, sniffle that, sob this, sob that. How could I have done anything so cruel? I who loved her more than anybody else. I really did love her. Okay, jeez. Man, this game is fucking annoying, you know? Man, this visual novel really does get annoying after all the fucking repetitive words being used all around to describe the same thing over and over again, like nothing unique to say. Really? Maddie, I'm sorry for your loss. I know it might not count for much, but I know how much Krabappel meant to you. And I just wanted you to know she didn't suffer. She didn't. How do you know that? Maddie demanded, her voice indistinct through her sobbing. How do you know? You can trust my father. He's a good man. He likes Krabappel too. She tried to kick him. She nearly split her skull in two. But she didn't, and he's fine. You might be fine, but Crabapple. I know, I'm sorry, Maddie, I'm so sorry. All she did was break her leg. It was just a break. She didn't need to die. They didn't need to put her down. Well, that's the harsh reality of things. So, what you gonna do? What are we gonna do? But horses cannot run if they break their legs. And all horses live to run. It was the kindest thing to do, yeah. Well, that's how it is. That was what Lord Edison said, and it was my father said too. That was what Lord Edison said, and it was my father said too. But I did wonder. They could hardly have asked Crabapple her echoing opinion. You really think a fucking horse would say, I really disagree with this? Even if they had attempted to, they would not have understood her, and she would have not have understood them. An impasse. Stalemate. Yeah. It wasn't kind at all. Maddie flared up, her hands clenched into fists, her expression contorting into one of hot, bitter, tear-stained anger. How could it be kind? They killed her. They killed Crabapple, my best friend. And she had a point. I opened my mouth, but my lips felt cracked, dry, and no words would wrench themselves out of my throat. No words other than abashed. I'm sorry. Sorry, Maddie repeated, and she looked at me up and down. Yeah, okay. She looked regal, noble, years beyond her true age, though she was so much a small girl, and she insisted on wearing those old dresses of hers to play in the garden. Lady Addison had purchased this dress for Maddie 4 years ago, but it still fit her, though it was still a little pinched about the arms, slightly too short about the legs. It strained slightly about the chest. But though she was at the tender age where she was beginning to grow into adulthood, she was not an adult just yet, and her horse just died, been killed, rather. And didn't she have a right to cry under such circumstances? To bawl, to scream and yell and stamp her feet against the ground, and throw her pillows across her bedroom, and stones through the mullioned windows. She was many things, or emotionally coexisting inside one tiny prepubescent body. That's not how you spell prepubescent. Prepubescent body, and they pulled her every which way. A fair lady, a stubborn brat, almost an adult, not quite yet, just a little girl. The girl I love more than anybody in the world. Okay. Are you sorry, she asked me, her eyes big and green and serious. Are you really sorry, Oliver? Her gaze was sharp enough to cut. Her words were weapons. Complete and utter devastation. I'm sorry, Mary, I really am. I pause. I know saying sorry won't bring Crabapple back, and I know it won't make any difference, but I really am. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Go, Oliver. Okay. And with a small sniffle that sounded like a sigh, sniffle this, sniffle that, small this, small that, Maddie crossed the distance between us. 1 step, then 2, then 3, and rested her head against my chest. Her forehead was warm. I thought I could hear the sound of her blood pulsating beneath her soft skin, but that was probably my imagination. It was far more likely to be the beating of my own heart, fluttering, anxiously, skipping like the stones across a pond, but louder. Far, far louder. My heart was pounding so hard I was terrified that Maddie would be able to hear it, and she would judge me. She would surely judge me. Her body was warm, a different kind of warmth to the summer sun that filtered through her green leaves and played across the petals of ivory daisies. It was comforting, all-encompassing, and most importantly, it was all for me. Mine and mine alone. My body moved naturally like the motions of the moon as it tracked across the night sky. I hardly realized I was doing when I held her close against my chest, her forehead against my breast, her body hunched over, enveloped in my embrace. She was so tiny, so small, just like a fairy. Okay, jeez, can we fucking... It was the first time I'd ever thought of Maddie for a few precious moments, my Maddie, of being fragile. But she was, undeniably at that moment, she was delicate. I wanted to protect her. I let my head rest atop of hers as she nuzzled against my chest, hiding the tears that streamed down her cheeks. I inhaled, despite chastising myself for the action, and surely Maddie would have found it unnerving. If she were in a fit frame of mind and Krababble had not died, she would have rolled her eyes and told me I was being unpleasant. Freak. But she did not push me away. She did not say a word, even as I inhaled the aroma of her hair, tarred like unripe mulberries, whatever, and dirt and the great outdoors unwashed. Mary hated bathing when she was younger. The prospect of being clean seemed to fill her with great disenchantment, and she would hiss cat-like when her mother fondled her limp locks of hair and told her to take better care of herself. Sometimes I needed her on the subject, asking her whether she would melt if she was caught in a downpour. But I loved her all the same. I've loved every last bit of her, all the dirt and grime and scowls and sighs, the poor manners and the puffy eyes, the bitter, sad, scared, angry tears. As I held her close, I wanted to subsume her into my own being, for the two of us to become one. What the fuck? A romantic notion, like something from 1001 Nights. Idealistic. Okay. But time continues to tick on and on and on. Okay, 1793, the fifth summer. By the fifth summer, Mary had changed. She was no longer a little girl, poised on the threshold between childlike innocence and mature cynicism. She was 13, a teenager, beginning to blossom into a real lady. No longer did Mary wear the loose dresses of her youth, adorned with flowers, her hair a loose, unmanageable mane. She began to tie her hair back neatly, with strips of ribbon thinner and finer than the wrist of a newborn baby. She walked differently, too. Gone were the days when she was content to what the fuck is that word? Trapeze? I don't know. About the gardens like a ragamuffin. Birds and brambles and bracken snagged in her dresses. Her shoes caked in mud and her stockings rucked up. I don't fucking know. She walked regally with elegance, her head held high as though a book was balanced atop her brilliantly blonde crown. She even remembered to pinch either side of her skirts with her hands so they didn't trail across the ground. In the space of a short, scant year, the little girl that Maddie had been vanished almost completely, without a trace, only spots and smears left behind, if you knew where to look. She was changed, and changed greatly, but the Maddie that I had known, that I had loved, was not gone. She did not climb trees anymore for fear of callousing her hands, and she did not seek me out during breaks between her piano playing or sewing, or French verb conjugating. Still, however, our paths seemed to cross, perhaps inevitably. Just like birds migrating for the winter, passing one another in the washed-out icy blue sky. We found our way together, attracted by some inexplicable force, maybe habit, or perhaps something deeper, more inexplicable this, inexplicable that, impossible to see, but they're all the same. The roots of a tree. The mulberry tree beneath which we had idled had so much of our time, eating black food so they burst between our teeth and the juice dripped down our chins. It was under this tree that Maddie and I had sworn quite solemnly to be partners in crime, co-conspirators against the iron fist of the indomitable Lady Addison. It was here, too, only one summer hence, that Maddie had rested her head against my chest and had cried herself boneless and body limp, whatever. A ragdoll of a girl with unwashed hair and the color of string. God damn it, I'm getting bored. Oh, man. The way this guy fucking writes is the way this guy narrates. So much pretentious words, so many repetitive words, so many repetitions. It's driving me crazy, man. Okay. A ragdoll of a girl with unwashed hair, the color of straw, eyelashes all clumped together with her crying. I could not imagine the new Matilda Edison crying. She seemed far too prim and proper for such a mawkish affair, and there's so many fucking words that are just like, wait, do people actually use this now? But still we found one another as though it were predestined, ordained by God. Okay. Why, hello, Oliver, as she said, and even her voice sounded different now, a touch more nasal, perhaps her vowels rounder and fuller, her consonants less harsh. She was politer than she had been in her youth, but the way she spoke was so careful, so calculated, drilled into her head, after several years' worth of elocution lessons, that it sounded insincere. I think she was being insincere, too. She said hello, but I doubted that she meant it. Though she smiled, her eyes did not. Okay. You're the only one thinking that, dude. The old Mary rarely smiled. The new Mary would smile frequently, at foolish things that did not deserve her smiles. Her father's ineffectual bluster, her mother's petty complaints, the compliments gentlemen paid her when they came to visit. A good deal of gentlemen came to visit Mary. Now she was nearing the age where marriage... Where? The age where marriage... Isn't it supposed to be where? W-H, not W-E. Where marriage prospects were not so unthinkable. Maybe that was why she had started to smile more. She had to, even if she did not feel like it, for the sake of her future. What man wanted a sullen wife, with lips pursed and her tongue poisoned? Personally, I did not mind. I far preferred that Mattie, but she was already a relic of the past. Well, boo-hoo. My opinion hardly counted for much, being a mere stable hand, and Mattie let me know it, too. Matilda. Okay. Hello, Lady Edson, I greeted her with a small bow. She giggled, holding one hand up to her mouth, her lips soft and pink, the sunlight playing across them so they looked even lovelier than ever before. She used to bite her lips when she felt anxious, worrying them with her teeth. She didn't do that anymore either. You do not need to be so formal, Oliver, she said. We were playmates since our childhood, were we not? I was under the impression that you were a lady, and I a mere servant, I said, my voice cool, carefully distant. I wish I didn't have to be so distant with Mattie, my Mattie, but she wasn't mine anymore. That was abundantly clear. She had changed too much. Even so, Mattie attempted to bridge the distance between us. She did not do so physically as she had done last summer, her forehead against my chest and my head atop of hers, but she tried to reach out with words that sounded far too accomplished, so devoid of awkward sharp edges it disoriented. I may be a lady, but you are still my friend, she said, as though it were that simple. Maybe to her it was, or maybe she was pitying me. Do you still believe that? I asked her. Of course I do, she said, holding one hand to her chest. I have missed you, Oliver. Really? When she appeared to me, her eyes big, her voice cracked, and her round, neatly formed ooh sound slipped. She sounded like the little girl I was accustomed to. She sounded like my Mattie. Yes, she said. I have been so terribly busy as of late. I haven't had any time to spend with you. I have been wondering as to your well-being. Then why did you not come to see me in the stables? You know where I am. Being a stable hand, my whereabouts should have been no big secret. Mattie simply sighed, soft and breathy, whatever. I could not, she said, with a touch of sadness to her tone. I would get my dress dirty. That never bothered you before. The dresses I wore as a child were not quite as expensive as the ones I wear now. Moreover, my mother would kill me. She said the word kill with such ghoulish delight, her dark eyes flashing, and for that moment that she sounded like my Mattie. The wild-haired, wild-eyed pixie child, and my heart constricted in my chest. Then she laughed lightly, airily, and the moment was gone. She didn't utilize her words in the same way. Her vocabulary seemed to have expanded most impressively in such a short space of time, but she had always been an intelligent girl, Mattie. She wasn't very talkative. She never seemed to feel the need to exercise her full command of the English language around others. It was not so now. Okay. An indispensable part of being a lady was the ability to show off one's own upbringing. It was no use having a glittering necklace if one did not wear it, and words were just the same. Were the people at this time really this fucking pretentious? There was little point in being educated if you did not flaunt your education, brazenly to everyone in the immediate vicinity. Members of the nobility you could impress. Servants you could snub. But perhaps I was the one at fault. Perhaps I was the truly judgmental one, assigning attributes to Matilda, based on my own mounting feelings of inferiority. I was afraid she would reject me, even if she had not yet. That was why I was trying to distance myself. It was undoubted that she had been avoiding me, but I had been avoiding her too. Okay. I believe I have turned out rather well despite Mother's initial worries, she said, her voice silly, soft, constricted by the layers of cloth. She seems more pleased with my current conduct. A sigh. Though studying the piano is so frighteningly dull, I fear that I am not a natural. My fingers are not long enough, and they do not taper at the ends quite so neatly. And the French? She wrinkled her nose, and the freckles wrinkled with it. I cannot stand it. Still, she shook her head passionately, and her curls bounced. If she had been younger, she would have spat on the floor. She did not do that now. Je déteste le François is probably I detest the French. I detest the French. But at least she was still able to joke, and when she left her own feeble attempts at French, tinged with an unimaginably British accent, it was open with abandon. Free. I could not help but laugh too. Matty, oh Matty, I said, shaking my head, I really have missed you. Well, I should hope so, she said smartly, once her laughter had subsided and her shoulders were not shaking. You should miss me. I am incredibly beautiful, you know. I knew it all too well. Is that what your suitors tell you? I asked her. She pulled another face. Please do not ask about my suitors. I am entirely uninterested. But I have heard the gossip, I said. Bertha told me. She said you got along quite well, swimmingly, her exact words, with Lord Burlington. With that fop, I would rather hang myself than become betrothed to such a boor. But Bertha said, Bertha is an old fool with too much time on her hands. If she moved her broom with as much as a plumb as she moved the mouth, the floors at home would be so clean you could eat off them. Well, you may have a point. Indeed I do, she said. I am far too young to think about marriage now. I would rather think about French verbs than marriage. But Lord Burlington seemed keen, and you look so happy with him. I have to look happy when I am with him, or it would hurt his feelings. That is what Mother says, as though I gave a stuff about his feelings, Matty said, sniffing again. But no matter, that is what happens when you get older. You have to start lying. I was always taught that lying is wrong. Me too, but adults contradict themselves. You are also an adult, I reminded her. She sighed, please do not remind me, it is something I care to think of. She sighed, please do not remind me, it is not something I care to think about. French verbs, then. She rolled her eyes heavily with such intense feeling it was almost as though the motion drove the sigh of long suffering out of her lungs. Erg. I started to laugh, and Matty did too. You know, Oliver, she said, letting her voice trail away almost coquettishly. What? When she blinked up at me from beneath her eyelashes so long and fair fluttering, I felt my heart stop beating for a fraction of a second. My throat sensed and my fingers began to spasm at my sides. She had been beautiful as a child, but she was undeniably gorgeous now, a flower in full bloom, a forbidden fruit. What is it, Matty? I asked, my voice dropping to a whisper, softer than the brush of the wind that played through the leaves of the mulberry tree. I don't know why I started to whisper, it just felt right, I suppose, like Matty and I were sharing some kind of secret, like we were small children again, our fingers and cheeks stained with dark juice, popping mulberries into our mouths, one after the other. The lazy summer days continued to roll by, unfettered, the clouds swirling in the sky about our heads like oils in the witch's cauldron. I wished so desperately I thought my heart would break, that I could go back to those days or else stay in the singular moment forever. Matty was older now, and had learned to hide her temperament behind soft smiles, how to smooth over awkward silence with silly conversational pitter-patter, how to please her parents by bowing her head, and listening and obeying, always obeying, yada yada yada. One day she would grow into her still ill-fitting title of a lady, and I would be left behind for good, abandoned even more surely than her old dresses, her rolled eyes, her petulant pouts. If only I could exist with Matty forever beneath his mulberry tree. Oliver, she said, her soft voice still, and not quite Matty, but not quite Matilda either, and thank heavens not Lady Addison either. That would come with time. Oliver, she tried again. What? Just say it. Yes, Matty. I would far rather marry you than Lord Burlington, you know. And though it was just a whim, a passing fancy, something that could not be, and could never be, no matter how much either of us may have wished it, I found myself light-headed, drunk of the sweet aroma of the strewn mulberries, and my own indescribable desire. If only I could have taken her in my arms and kissed her and kissed her again, until her lips were swollen and her eyes swam with tears. So? But I could not, because Matty turned her head, smiling that pointed smile of hers, and avoided my gaze. Maybe it was because my desperation was too palpable, too pathetic, and made her uncomfortable. Maybe she had never meant it to begin with. Okay. So what was up with that confession then? Matilda could only say these things because she did not truly love me. Not as much as I loved her. Okay. Sixth summer. Yeah. By the sixth summer, we had drifted even further, more surely than the fluffy white clouds in the bright blue sky. The mulberry tree was still the same, with its gnarled trunk and bright green leaves. I'm kind of bored now, so I'm gonna end here because I have to prepare. Yeah, I have to prepare for work. So this is Around the Mulberry Bush. If you want to try to get for yourselves, the links are in the description. That is all for today. Stay safe and take care of yourselves. God, this guy fucking yaps a lot. I wish I could have heard more from Matilda or Maddie or whatever her name is. Just the same repetitive nonsense, bullshit, pretentious fucking words that you need a fucking dictionary to carry around if you ever want to read this visual novel. Fucking.